Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive? We're jumping into AI this time.
Sounds exciting.
It is actually. We've got research papers coming out our ears, government reports, even some articles from those really niche tech journals. This isn't just the same old AI hype.
I have to say, it's a really interesting mix of stuff this time. We've got like the philosophy of AI all the way to the nitty-gritty technical problems.
Exactly. So should we just dive right into it?
Let's do it.
So, first off, how about we figure out what AI really is right now? Let's talk about what it can do and what it can't do, and I bet we even find some surprises along the way. What do you think?
Yeah, and what I'm really curious about is how all these different sources, how they see the future of AI.
Right.
Like, is it going to be like a utopia, or are we all going to be, ruled by robots?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? It seems like everyone's got an opinion about that. And speaking of opinions, let's talk about some of those AI myths we always hear. I swear every other article I read is like, robots are going to take over the world.
Oh yeah, the robot apocalypse. Classic.
Right.
It makes a good story, but honestly, AI is way more complicated than that. We've made some cool progress with things like machine learning, but we are nowhere near creating, like a truly intelligent machine.
It's kind of like comparing, a calculator to like an actual mathematician.
Yeah,
The calculator can do math super fast, but it doesn't actually understand the math?
that's a good way to put it. Like,
Yeah.
look at self-driving cars. They use these really complex algorithms and sensors to get around, but even they have trouble with stuff that human drivers just do automatically. They have their rules, and if something's not in the rules, they don't know what to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's funny how we always think about AI in these like sci-fi ways, but what really blows my mind is how it's being used right now, like in the real world and in all kinds of fields.
It really is incredible.
Sure.
One of the things that I thought was super cool was how AI is changing scientific discovery. Some of these papers talked about huge breakthroughs in like medicine and biology because of AI.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. There was this one, I think it was called Rosetta. It sounded so complicated,
Yeah.
but also like it could be really important.
Yeah, it's a great example of AI, like changing science.
Mhm.
Basically, it's this AI that can look at a protein and figure out its shape, its 3D structure, just from the amino acids.
Okay.
And that's really important because how a protein is shaped determines what it does.
So if we know the shape, then we know how it works.
Exactly. For years,
Mm.
scientists have been trying to figure out these protein structures. It's like a super complex 3D puzzle.
Wow.
And Rosetta Full can solve these puzzles really fast, like way faster than we could before. So now scientists can actually understand how different proteins work and how they interact with each other. And that's huge for making new medicines.
That is really cool. It's like AI is the ultimate lab assistant. What other cool stuff did you find?
Oh, I thought the stuff about AI in education was really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Not like robots teaching kids or anything,
Right.
but more like a personalized tutor for every student.
Oh, you mean like customizing how kids learn based on like their learning style.
Exactly. Like, imagine a program that could figure out how a student learns best, and then it gives them custom feedback and support. That's the kind of thing AI could do for education.
That'll be amazing, especially for students who learn differently. But what about the teachers? I mean, are they going to be replaced by robots too?
That's a really important question, and almost all the sources talked about that. Seems like everyone agrees that AI should be a tool for teachers, not a replacement. AI can maybe do things like personalize lessons and grade homework, but it's the teachers who really connect with the students. They're the ones who can inspire kids to learn.
That's good to hear. It seems like human connection is still important, even with all this tech.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got AI changing how we make discoveries and how we learn. What else?
Well, with climate change being such a big deal, I was really interested in the AI stuff about sustainability.
Oh, yeah. I've heard a little about that. Like, how is AI actually helping with the environment?
One cool example is this project by DeepMind. It's the same group that made that AlphaGo program that beat the world champion Go player.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. That was a big deal. What are they doing now?
Well, now they're using machine learning to make wind energy way more efficient.
How does that work?
They basically use AI to predict the wind, like really accurately. And then they use that information to adjust the turbines so they make as much energy as possible.
Wow, that's really smart.
Right.
So AI is making renewable energy even better.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other projects using AI for the environment. Like they're using it to track deforestation, reduce pollution, all kinds of things.
This is really incredible. It's like AI is everywhere, even in places you wouldn't expect. It makes you wonder what's next, Like, where do we go from here?
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Right.
all these sources, and they all kind of hit on this idea that the future of AI, it's not, set in stone. It's what we decide to make it.
That's kind of a powerful thought. So how do we even begin to like figure out this whole AI future? What do we need to think about if we want to make sure it's good for everyone?
Well, one thing that kept coming up was, regulation. Like, we need rules, right?
Uh,
AI is getting more powerful, and if we don't set some boundaries, things could get a little, well,
yeah.
out of
So it
hand.
makes sense, especially with AI being used in like healthcare and education. It seems like we definitely need some rules there.
Absolutely. And it's not just about stopping bad things from happening. It's also about encouraging the good stuff.
Yeah.
We need to find that balance. Like, how do we control the risks without, like, crushing innovation?
Yeah, good point. Did any of the sources actually talk about how to do that? Like, are there any real world examples?
Definitely. There's this one report, I think it was from a Dutch government group, and they talked about this thing called the EU's AI Act. Have you heard of that?
I haven't actually.
Well, it's this whole set of rules that the EU is working on to deal with all the big AI issues, like data privacy and making sure AI isn't biased. They even talk about making sure we understand how AI makes decisions, which is something a lot of people are worried about.
Wow, the EU's AI Act? That sounds like a pretty big deal. But what about the rest of the world? I mean, AI is everywhere. It's not like it stops at borders or anything.
Yeah, and that's something a lot of these sources talked about. They said that international cooperation is, like, super important. Countries need to work together to figure out the ethical stuff, share what works, and basically make sure AI is good for the whole world.
So it's more than just the technology itself. It's about all of us figuring out how to use it responsibly.
Exactly. And this actually leads to maybe the biggest question of all. What's the relationship between humans and AI going to be like in the future?
Yeah, I think that's the question that scares a lot of people. Like, are robots going to take all our jobs? Are we going to be useless?
It's a valid concern. But I don't think it's going to be like that. A lot of these sources talked about something called augmented intelligence. It's basically the idea that AI should help us, not replace us.
This is more like a partnership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just imagine doctors using AI to diagnose diseases way faster and more accurately. Or architects using it to design buildings that are good for the environment. Or scientists using it to, I don't know, cure cancer. AI could help us do incredible things.
That's pretty amazing. It sounds like AI could help us solve some of the biggest problems we face.
It really could. But
Mhm.
it's not going to happen by itself. A lot of the sources talked about how important education is. Like, we need to teach people about AI, and we also need to make sure that the AI itself is, trained the right way.
Trained. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's not about teaching robots to do math problems or anything. It's about making sure that the values we build into AI align with human values. We need to make sure it's fair, transparent, and, doesn't accidentally turn against us.
It's kind of like parenting, I guess. You need to raise AI right if you want it to turn out okay.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. And it's not just up to the scientists and engineers either. It's up to all of us, policymakers, ethicists, and, yeah, even everyday people.
I'm feeling a lot more optimistic about all of this than when we started. It's easy to get caught up in the doom and gloom, but there's so much potential here.
Me too. It's been an amazing deep dive. We've learned so much about the good, the bad, and everything in between when it comes to AI. And I think the biggest takeaway is that the future is unwritten. It's what we choose to make it.
Absolutely. And a huge thank you to everyone listening for joining us on this journey. We've only scratched the surface of this incredible field, so if you're curious, don't stop here. Keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and let's see what amazing future we create together.